Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with SouthernIndianaWeather.com. Thanks for logging on here to my latest long-range update. Lots to discuss tonight as far as the pattern for the rest of June. It's kind of slowing down, and man, is it hot, but could be some relief in sight next week. We'll get to that here in just a second. First off, rain-free around the area. You've got to go down to our south here into Kentucky where you've got some severe thunderstorms going on, but that's well out of our way as we just zoom in on southern Indiana. Really just absolutely nothing going on for us, and it looks like it's going to pretty much stay that way uh, all evening, and really their next rain chance is not until next week. Now, of course, we got some rain yesterday. Here's the 24-hour rainfall totals ending this morning from the state of Indiana. You see not a whole lot there at the top of the state there, but really what you see is three areas or so got the jackpot when it came to some rain, and some much needed rain, I might add. You would think after all the rain we had this spring wouldn't need it as much, but actually we've gotten kind of dry over the past couple of weeks, and with the 90s that we have been experiencing, that certainly dried things out at least a little bit here. You had a pretty good pocket of rain here around Knox, Greene, Davies, Martin counties here. Another pretty good pocket of rain up here around Indy, and then another decent little pocket of rain here in southeast Indiana. Bit of rain extended there down into Gibson, into Warwick and Spencer counties as well, but for the most part everybody else just got very meager amounts of rain. So it would be needed though, and it would be welcome, because actually we are now officially in a little bit of a drought status. So what you've got here, well, we are on our way to a drought, let's put it that way. This is the Midwest, this is the U.S. drought monitor, and what you see here in the Midwest view, there's the abnormally dry. So it's the beginning stages. It's just the D0. We'll zoom here on Indiana a little bit more into the state. And what you see is this takes into account almost all of the state except for just the extreme portions of southern Indiana here, not in the abnormally dry. Now, this is not a major drought yet. And by the way, this does not take into account the rains that we had yesterday. This was made on Tuesday morning, so I think that you'll see this change a little bit next week, every Tuesday when they analyze it. I think you'll see it back off a little bit here, but not a whole lot, because, well, keep in mind where the rains fell. We got a pocket of rain here around Indy, another pocket around Vincennes and areas just off to the east, and another pocket here in southeast Indiana, but that's not going to be enough to alleviate the whole state. You'll still see northern Indiana, and this you might see, you might see some places around here and around here kind of wiped out from it, but most of, and possibly around here could be, but the rest of the state got very meager amounts of rain, and so you're not going to see it wiped off yet. So, and the bad news is we don't really have a whole lot of rain in the forecast. Now, this is something I mentioned about 3 months ago in a couple of my previous long-range updates. I've talked about how El Nino was going to transition eventually into La Nina. El Nino is now dead. The National Weather Service finally declared that it was dead here over the past few days. El Nino is no more. It's goodbye. It's gone. We're in neutral status, but we're quickly going to be heading into what we call La Nina, which is the opposite of El Nino. El Nino is abnormal warming of waters around the equatorial region off the coast of South America and heading down into the Central Pacific. La Nina is the exact opposite. It's an abnormal cooling of waters, and of course it has a lot of reverse effects there for what you would see as well. La Ninas, by the way, when we have a La Nina developing over the summer, it typically makes us drier than normal and does have a habit of bringing drought-like conditions to us. So what you see here is anything from -5 and below is what we consider La Nina status. And so you can see what this has is by the beginning of July and onward, these are all different ensemble members of the CFS model, and the mean of them here in the black dashed line. And actually what you are seeing here is we've got La Nina coming in on pretty strong as we head later into the summer, into early this fall. In fact, Purdue, the state climatologist center there, that's located at Purdue University up in West Lafayette, actually released a report this week saying that they believe that Indiana could be in a pretty sizable drought later this fall, probably starting to really kick in around August or so. And that's very possible, because that would be when La Nina is certainly kicking on. Now, La Ninas tend to make us wetter than normal over the winter months, so that would be a good thing. It would probably be a temporary drought, but a drier than normal summer and fall is sort of what it's looking like. Now, we've not had a major drier than normal early beginning of summer, But really, it's been the story of the haves and have-nots. If you've gotten rain, you've gotten rain, and a lot of it. But if you haven't gotten rain, you have really missed out on it. And just this map from where we got rain-wise yesterday illustrates that perfectly. So we'll see what this does. But I would expect over what we've got coming the next couple of weeks, this could potentially expand a little bit. And let me show you that. Here's what the modeling shows. We don't have any rain to really worry about until next Tuesday. That's whenever a cold front is going to sweep through. But look at this. It's not bringing us a significant chance of rain with it. We're going to run with about a 30 or 40% chance of rain on Tuesday at this point. Maybe hope for better because we could all use some rain around here again by that point. It's going to be hot this weekend. And so behind this, though, we've got a much cooler pattern emerging. And it's going to be a much cooler pattern the way things are looking right now. Looks transient, though. Doesn't look like it's going to stay forever, but we might get 3 or 4 days of much cooler weather, which would certainly be welcome before we head back up to a very warm pattern again. And we just don't have a whole lot here in the rain to show you until later in the month when we start to see some storm systems rolling up again. Now, as we take a look at what's going on with this, we'll look at the mid-level jet stream. We're at the 500 millibar level. This is about 40,000 feet up into the atmosphere. And so we're just sort of taking a look at what these are. If you're not familiar with these are height lines. And the colors indicate whether it's above normal heights or below normal heights there. That will translate into warmer than normal and cooler than normal temperatures as well, just for your keeping score here. But here's what we've got going on. We've got this ridge, this heat ridge building up here. That moves over us, but watch what we've got going on here as we head into the weekend especially. You've got this huge ridge of high pressure out to our west over here building up, and what we call this is a ring of fire pattern. And the ring of fire is basically what you get whenever you have sort of what we call this heat ridge build up, and you're going to see cloudless, hot skies here. This is going to be a heat dome, and then what you're going to really have is just these storms that are riding on the periphery of that. And notice how far back this is. That's going to put us probably far enough over here that we have the heat but not the storms, unless this high pressure were to move a little over here. And so that's something that we're going to have to watch as far as that goes on the placement of this. But as it stands right now, the reason we don't have a whole lot of storms is because it's too much away from us. But then we have another dip in the jet stream, and that's what will bring us next week some of that cooler temperatures. It does not look like sustained cooler temperatures. It looks like it's just a nice little cool shot. In fact, some of the modeling is indicating we might even go into the 70s, and that would be nice. That would certainly be much below normal pattern, but it is not going to stay that way. Unfortunately, we'll return to the 90s probably pretty quickly the way things look off of this, because as you notice, after a few days of that, we start to see this ridge build back in, and we're back into that kind of same old pattern. How cool would it be? Well, here you go. By next Thursday, you've got temperatures, high temperatures here, pretty much on the muggy side. Let me show you that. This is actually the beginning. Here we go into the hot temperatures, near 90 there on Sunday again, near 90, upper 80s, near 90 on Monday. By the time you go into Tuesday, though, you get the cold front moving through. There you are, temperatures in the 80s falling into the 70s behind that front. It has us going into the 50s that night by the time you wake up Wednesday morning. And then look at this. By the time you get into the afternoon on Wednesday, it's between the afternoon with temperatures only 75 around the area here, if that is to be believed. And this particular model would keep us into the mid-70s again for Thursday, the upper 70s for Friday, before you get to the mid-80s again for that next weekend. Now the question is this believable? I'm not ready to buy into the 70s yet. This isn't the only model that we use, but it is the one that's showing the most extreme temperatures at this point right now. We will see. Right now I've chosen to go low 80s. I will just say this, the 70s are possible. It's one option that's on the table, but it's not set in stone yet. If it were the option that were set in stone, man, it'd be cooler, way cooler than normal. Just look at how the temperature anomaly is. You're talking temperatures here well below normal. You're talking 7 to 10 or more degrees Celsius, by the way, below normal. And that pattern just kind of sticks around here for really for several days, according to this, before, yes, you guessed it, we go, as we head later in, right back into that above normal pattern where we hit the 90s again. So yes, I do believe that we're going to get a little cool shot with this, but it is going to be a non-sustained shot. Don't get used to it. It'll be nice to have 3 or 4 days of slightly cooler weather, but unfortunately we got that I believe that we're going to have some stronger weather come up with this again, and then of course it's going to depend on exactly what this ridge of high pressure does. If this ridge of high pressure just continues to set up, we'll be on that ring of fire pattern. But if it's so far out here, then what you're going to have is a stormy pattern on the edge of it that you're going to see here for the plain states, and that means we will miss out on the storm chances. We got to have that ridge start to move over here before we would get those storm chances. That remains to be seen as for what that's going to do right now, but as the modeling say right now, rain looks pretty scarce the next couple of weeks. That could change. The one thing that you need to know about a ring of fire is that it wreaks havoc on models. And so you take every model you have with an extra grain of salt. We always take them with a grain of salt. They're never perfect. They're especially not perfect in a ring of fire pattern. Whenever you get into a ring of fire pattern like this, literally it just wreaks havoc on the models, and they change and adjust back and forth constantly. So I'm not going to do a knee-jerk reaction and predict 70s next week, because that could be dead wrong. By the time tomorrow's models are run, we could easily be back into the mid-80s again. So we'll run with the low 80s for it at this point, but know that a cooler pattern looks on the table for a few days next week before we head back into that. Rain looks much more questionable. Here's the forecast. You can go to southernindianaweather.com, click on 10-day forecast, brought to you by the Smile Center in Huntingburg. 86 for your high tomorrow, a few afternoon clouds. It clears out on Friday night. Then you get warm temperatures again, upper 80s there on Saturday, into the 90s again Sunday, Monday. Next chance of rain again comes with that front on Tuesday. We'll cool down probably into the mid-80s for a high as that moves through. I've went with a 40% chance of precipitation. It's not as significant. It'll again probably not going to be a widespread rain. It's going to be scattered stuff. It's going to be the haves and the have-nots. Hopefully those who have had not in this past rain will get some. We'll keep our fingers crossed, but no promises. And again, as you head on to that, we'll cool off a little bit behind that front. I've went with the low 80s for a couple of days before we warm up again, but that heat will eventually come back. But you notice here on the 10-day, only one day with a small rain chance. So again, that's not going to be good for us if the drought monitor is right. That very much could end up seeing this actually increasing. We don't want to get more. We don't want to go into a moderate drought. But that's on the table. That could happen later this summer if we don't get some rain and we don't end up getting some drained creek. We need to erase this, but it's not looking helpful or very hopeful over the next couple of weeks with the models as they stand now. But again, we're going to be in a ring of fire pattern. Things could change. We could get very active if that ring of fire, if that ridge of high pressure would position itself just right. That remains to be seen. Right now it doesn't look like it will, but if it does, of course, I'll bring you another video and let you know. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope it does. Just not looking hopeful right now. That's it for this video, folks. Thanks for watching this latest long-range update. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite for southernindianaweather.com. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you next time.